Why do you give me such a silly question?
Well, why a motorboat and not a sailboat?
Something I get, well, I don't like about American is that Americans give me so many whys and demand me to answer in because, right? Because in Japan we exchange our views and opinions through hara, stomach, not with words. That's not true. Do you think it's true? Communication hara was stomach. Many people say that haragei or belly art or stomach art or communication through hara instead of words. But I don't think it's not good for Japanese. Have to be more international. Have to expand in words. But when it comes to why, because games, Japanese are not not accustomed to or not used to get into. Japanese are not accustomed to the why because game or not used to a why because game.
They're not accustomed to answering?
No, Japanese are not accustomed to answering with because. But I'm talking about why because game.
I don't think anybody in America knows about anything about the why because game. It made splashes on me. I don't think...
I asked it because you give me many whys.
I don't think people in America have played the why because game. I think that's a Japanese phenomenon.
Japanese phenomenon to the what?
The why because game.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You mean kind of debate? No.
No, it's different from debate. Why because?
Why because? Why because?
Maybe an exercise that didn't your sensei introduce you to the why because game? Who did? Where did you first hear about it?
My sensei.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your sensei. Didn't he first introduce you to that?
Yeah. Why because?
Where did he come in contact with it? Did you ask him that?
In his office.
In his office? He developed it?
No. He was interested in debate. And, to be a good debater, according to my sensei or mentor, you have to get used to why because games, or Western logic. Because Japanese logic is not why because. It's more like, suggestion and lots of implication and reading between the lines or reading between the lips, kind of communication.
And so that communication, it appears to me that type of communication, reading between the lines, implications, could lead to a great deal of misunderstanding.
Yes, it does. But if he is a master of, Japanese way of communication, he can read. If he can't,
so he can. So a
if you
master,
misunderstand, then we'd be saying, oh, he's immature. He still don't know how to read his stomach. Right? So it's really frustrating for Japanese youngsters to understand and read the real intention of the older people, or the intention of the bosses, right? Because they don't frankly express their feeling and opinions or direction.
Because the bosses don't.
They used to. Yeah. Now it's changing.
Do you think the use of the hara and the reading between the lines and the being sensitive to the truth behind the implication is changing in Japan?
It's changing.
Less prevalent, less used.
Less used.
People are depending more and more on direct
communication.
Verbal communication.
Yeah, right.
And
we have to be so.
You think that's because of a Western influence?
Because of Western influence. Yeah.
Not because it hasn't been successful? Is this an area where Japan is giving up something that has been very successful?
I wouldn't use the word giving up, but Japanese younger generation
just aren't developing.
Yeah, it's just developing, and it gets more, frustration why do you give me, more direct, opinion or frank opinion, or when they, imply something, now, Japanese youngsters would say, so what? Right? So I think it's a good reaction.
You think it's better to
I think it's better.
not develop that sensitivity to read the implication? And it's better to
In business situation, it's going to be better. And also in international stage, like in the communication between Japanese and non-Japanese, we have to be more frank. If we use Japanese way of, implication method, you'd get loss. Yeah.
Well, unless, but generally I suppose that's true. Most international businessmen depend on having what they call the cards laid out on the table. Have the situation just clearly, presented.
Brother, what are you cooking?
Chicken?
Chicken?
Should I go in here immediately?